Rome, Italy, nicknamed the Eternal City that was established in 753 BC. In the ancient world, it was the successful capital of the Roman Empire and is regarded as one of the birthplaces of Western civilization. Today, it's the capital city of Italy and one of the most visited cities by tourists every year, with so many famous historic sites to see like the Colosseum, Trevi Fountain, and Vatican City, along with the fantastic Italian food. It's no wonder why this city usually has one of the top spots on anyone's bucket list. So before you plan your first trip to this city, let me help give you all the information you need to know before you go so you can have the best experience. First, we'll start with planning your trip. When should you go based on the weather? As you can see on the screen, here are the averages per month and the average highs versus low temperatures per month. We went in mid-August and it was 90 degrees every single day. So miserable, to be honest. So if I were to plan this trip again, I would definitely plan it for a late April, early May, late September, or even October, so you can have enjoyable weather that's not too hot or too cold. My first time visiting in 2016, I went in April and I thought the weather was absolutely perfect. I wore sundresses every day and never needed to wear a jacket, nor was I sweating. And my in-laws went in mid-November and thought it was too cold and needed a puffer jacket the whole time. So I really do think that picking the right time of year will dramatically affect your trip and what you think about Rome as a whole. And to piggyback off of this, it's not just the weather, it's also the crowds. I don't remember it being so crowded in April that I ever felt really uncomfortable, whereas this trip in August was way too crowded for me, and again made the experience less enjoyable for me overall this time around. So it's a combination of the weather and how crowded it will be that can either make or break your trip right from the start. Now let's talk about planning your arrival and how to get from the airport to the city center. There are two main airports in Rome: Leonardo da Vinci Airport at Fiumicino, airport code FCO. It's used by all the major airlines, so if you are flying from outside of Europe, you will most likely fly in here, while Ciampino Airport, which is the code CIA, is used by European budget airlines like EasyJet and Ryanair, so if you are coming from somewhere else in Europe, you'll most likely fly in here. From FCO, you have a few options on getting to the city center depending on where exactly your hotel is located. You can take a direct train on Trenitalia from the airport directly to the main train station in Rome called Roma Termini. So if your hotel is near there, this is definitely the easiest option. It will take about 35 minutes. Trains leave about every 15 to 30 minutes from 6:38 a.m. all the way to 11:38 p.m. and it costs 14 euros each way. If you're looking for something a little bit more affordable, you can take the SIT bus shuttle. This is what we took because our hotel was actually near Vatican City, and the SIT bus goes from FCO to Vatican City to Roma Termini. So if your hotel is also near Vatican City, this is definitely the most efficient way to get there. It costs 7 euros if you purchase online, or 9 euros from the bus stop at the airport where you can use tap to pay. It takes about 40 minutes to get to Vatican City and then another 15 to 20 minutes to get to Roma Termini from there. I'll put the timetable link in the description that you see on the screen right now. As you can see, there are sometimes 2 to 3 departures within the hour and sometimes there's just one. So it really just depends when you land, if you get lucky or not, which is why we opted to not buy in advance since we didn't know how long it would take us to get through immigration and whatnot. But if you would prefer to buy in advance, you can also do that with the same link. Ciampino Airport is slightly closer to Rome city center than FCO, but it is a little bit more inconvenient. It also has the SIT bus shuttle I just talked about, which is €6 one way and takes about 35 minutes to get to Roma Termini. Only one departure per day goes to Vatican City, so it would most likely be better to get off the train station and get to Vatican City from there if that's where your hotel is. The SIT bus shuttle is a lot less frequent than the FCO one and it only has one departure per hour. Unfortunately, there is no train option directly from the airport, but you can take the Ciampino Airlink bus for 10 minutes to the Ciampino train station and hop on the train from there to Roma Termini, which will only take about 15 minutes. The combined ticket for taking the Airlink bus and train to Roma Termini is only €2.70, so it is super cheap. There's also technically two city buses, bus 520 and 720, that will only cost you €1.50 and takes about 30 minutes, but they won't bring you to the city center. They bring you to metro stations further south in Rome, so you'd have to hop on a metro from there to get to the city center. Now let's talk about where to stay, which in my opinion is one of the most important things for any trip. As you can see on the map, which I'll go into more detail about in my 3-day Rome itinerary video coming soon, you can see where all the main attractions are. So a hotel as centrally located between these pins would be the most ideal. Ideally between the Pantheon and Trevi Fountain, since that's really as central as it gets, but honestly Rome is extremely walkable, so if you're looking to save money, it won't be hard to stay more on the outskirts and walk, bus or metro into the city. We actually stayed right next to Vatican City, and we either took a bus or walked into the city center every day. It was very easy. So I'd say don't venture too far out where you're not technically in Rome city center anymore, because on my first trip to Rome, I accidentally did do that, and it was a nightmare trying to take an hour-long bus into Rome city center every day. But as long as you're somewhere that's within a 45-ish minute walk to all the attractions, that's definitely ideal. Now let's talk about getting around the city using public transportation. For those of you who have traveled to other large European cities that have impeccable public transportation like London, Barcelona, or Paris, let me just preface this section with Rome does not fall under this category. Italy in general has some of the worst public transportation in all of Europe, in my opinion. And the reason I say this is because not only are the buses and metros not very nice, they are extremely unreliable, and the times between each one is absurd. When we were waiting for buses from Vatican City to Rome City Center, the bus would only come about every 20 to 30 minutes, which would be absolutely criminal in London. I think the longest I've ever waited for transportation in London was around 7 minutes, and people were fuming. And on top of this huge delay between departures, sometimes they kind of just do their own thing, just do whatever they want. Like on both my 2016 Rome trip and this one, we were on a bus journey where in the middle of the route, the bus driver just pulled over and decided to take his lunch break. No announcement, no waiting until we got to the end of the route, nothing. So we had to just get off and walk from there because we weren't just gonna sit and wait for his lunch break to be over. So just know all of this going into your trip. Yes, you can take public transportation, but don't rely on it too much. One thing I really did like about their public transportation system though, which is the same as in London, they've recently updated everything so it's all tap to pay, meaning when you hop on the bus or get to the metro station, you can just use Apple Pay or a bank card to tap in and out. You do not need to buy a public transportation card and top it up, which is super inconvenient and annoying. Cough, cough, Paris. It's also just a flat rate of €1.50 for public transportation in Rome, which is so cheap. Like I mentioned a few times, we mostly walked in Rome. We took a few buses, but we did not take the metro at all, and this is because a lot of metro stops are closed right now due to this huge metro expansion project that will span the next decade to connect FCO Airport to the city center by metro, and just have a lot more connections around the city of Rome. Because if you compare the Rome metro map to the London metro map that you can see on the screen, it is pretty pathetic. It does not cover a lot, so it's not really that useful, to be honest. And I know London is a lot bigger than Rome, but still, hopefully this metro project will make it easier to get around Rome using public transportation since the buses aren't that great. Now let's dive into currency and cost of things. They use the euro here as they do in most countries within the European Union, and as of August 2024, the exchange rate to USD is almost pretty much even, which is so refreshing coming from the UK where the pound is not even with the US dollar at all. I'd say on average any spritz type drink like an Aperol or limoncello spritz was around 8 euros, a beer was around 6 euros, a pizza ranged from about 10 to 13 euros depending on your toppings, and a pasta dish was about 11 to 16 euros. So yes, Rome is expensive in comparison to other parts of Italy, but I don't think it should be considered an expensive city, especially coming from most places in the US, or like us coming from London. It actually felt extremely cheap to us, which was really nice. I will say that you will not need cash anywhere. Literally everything is tap to pay now, which is very convenient. So don't feel like you need to go to your bank and get out euros before your trip. Just make sure you have a credit card with no international transaction fees, and if you're looking for one, I can highly recommend the Capital One Quicksilver card, which I'll put in the description below. Next, I want to talk about some must-have souvenirs for Italy in general, but specifically Rome, as each region or even city has specific things that they are famous for. Like I'm sure any photo you've seen of the Amalfi Coast, which is a region about 2 hours south of Rome, is filled with lemons and lemon souvenirs because that's what the region is known for. So when you go there, you have to buy something lemon. And I'll have a lot more Amalfi Coast content coming soon, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on those. But for Rome specifically, there wasn't anything I found that was regionally specific, more similar to the typical Italian souvenirs you'd want to get no matter what city you're visiting in Italy. Italian leather products, wine, olive oil, pistachio cream, and limoncello. So if you don't have a checked bag like me, you'd want to stick with the leather products or get a tiny taster bottle of something like we did for the limoncello rather than a big bottle. And of course, I want to talk about the must-try foods in Rome. Now, of course, when you think of Italy, you think pasta, gelato, pizza, lasagna, gnocchi, cannolis, and so many other amazing things, which you should try everywhere in Italy. It'll all be amazing. But for Rome-specific dishes to try, first is one of the city's most iconic pasta dishes, cacio e pepe. Cacio is the local word for pecorino romano, a salty aged sheep's milk cheese, while pepe means black pepper, so it's basically like a cheese pepper sauce pasta. Next is carbonara, which is a pretty common dish back in the US, so I'm sure you already know what it is. A pasta dish made with egg yolk, Parmesan cheese, and black pepper, typically topped with pancetta. Next is pizza al taglio, or pizza by the slice, which is a distinctly Roman style pizza where the pizza is cooked in long square shapes and the slices are cut with scissors based on the size that you want. Typically, Italians would say Rome is not the city that's great for pizza. You'd go to Naples for that. But I love pizza al taglio, and I think it's a great way for you to try a few different types of pizza for cheap. The last thing I'll mention in this section is that the gelato all over Italy is insanely good. I literally had a cup a day the entire time we were there. And by far my favorite place on both my 2016 trip and this trip, where we went to multiple places in Italy, was a place called Giolitti in Rome, about 10 minutes from the Trevi fountain. It is so creamy and so delicious. I absolutely recommend. I'm not going to dive into the top things to do in Rome in this video because I'm going to do an entire video dedicated to a detailed 3-day Rome itinerary coming soon, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. For now, let's take a look at my Paris 3-day itinerary to see if you want to expand your Italy trip and do an Italy and France trip.